Zero.
But like specifically, so I'm not sure I'm getting the exact tournament right, but
Right.
Bobby Curacao 62, right?
Yes.
This is correct.
Precisely.
Where he accused Soviet chess
Soviets
players of
of
prearranging
cheating.
draws.
Correct.
Which is a form of cheating.
Correct.
It's not as bad as prearranging
A
decisive
win or a
games,
loss, yeah.
but it's still something, right? It's not
Exactly.
entirely
Exactly.
It's not entirely fair.
Exactly.
These seem like likely allegations that players would prearrange draws. I mean, we know this happens,
Right.
sometimes, right?
Exactly. I mean, who was it? I want to say probably one of the most notable examples in my history was Ulf Anderson and Lubomir Lebojevic. Just look at them. Look at Lubo probably won one of the greatest games ever played against Ulf Anderson. And they analyzed that game for probably like 2 months together. Then they became great friends. And every game that they ever played thereafter was a draw. They just drew every game, and you could just see it, right? And, imagining that we're playing in a U.S. championship, and, Fabi, you're a very good friend of Christian. And, you guys making a draw together doesn't surprise anybody because you've been doing that year after year after year after year.
It would surprise me a little bit.
Of course, of course. And,
Yes.
It was almost like that was a kind of an expectation that, hey,
It still
but
happens
as
to
so
this day.
long as you guys aren't throwing the point to one another, you're not injuring me.
It still
I don't
happens to
feel
Yeah,
this
that
day.
there is this idea, or this.
Except what you were about to say maybe was that the Curacao candidates was so long that they could pace.
No,
They
that's
didn't
one
lose
thing.
energy.
But I was thinking only from a modern chess point of view.
Yeah.
Like chess players have this conception that prearranging draws, it's like a soft crime. It's
Right.
not nothing too serious, right?
Yeah, it's not the
a
end
lot
of
of
the
people
world.
do it, but still, it's against the nature of the
Of
sport
course.
in a sense
No
because
question.
it's a game where it's all supposed to be contested
Yeah.
at the board, not
Yeah.
before the game.
I
Besides, you prepare your openings or whatever,
Right.
not after the game.
Right.
It's all during.
I want to say, in my experience, I was absolutely one of those people who was aware that you don't prearrange a result, but I had so many brotherhood pairings. I would go with friends from Seattle, all the way, it doesn't matter, to Idaho, to San Diego, to LA. I can't believe it. We got paired together.
Yeah.
We don't want to play each other. You want to make a draw? Yeah, okay, let's just make a draw. And so that was like, that was unfortunate. We wanted to play strangers, essentially,
Yeah, of
is what
course.
we wanted to do. Now, when you get to, for example, the candidates, I played in the candidates tournament, it was never even a doubt that none of these games were prearranged. You just didn't even think it would. And I remember I was playing against Kevin Spraggett, right? And he's like Canadian, and it was like I'm American. The French were like, oh, the Canadian and an American are close friends. They're going to make a draw with one another. No. I wanted to beat the hell out of Kevin,
Yeah, of
and I'm
course,
sure
of
he
course,
felt the
of course.
same way. There was never any
Yeah.
doubts. So it was like...
Well, there is this rule in candidates. I don't know when it was implemented, but players from the same country face in the first and the 8th round.
Right.
To avoid, of course,
Any-
prearranging a game in the 8th round can also be very tournament altering,
Right.
But prearranging a game in the 14th round,
Was worse.
that can decide the tournament on the spot,
Precisely.
right?
Right.
So that's why they try to avoid that in case.
Exactly.
Of course, like everyone knows that I'm not going to prearrange a result with Hikaru. I mean,
Exactly. Exactly.
But still, you have that rule in place just in case.
Exactly. And indeed, so that there's no doubt there's no hanky-panky. And I remember this very vividly. It was somehow in the early 80s. It came to be that the FIDE wanted to make a rule that not only don't you talk to your compatriots from the same country, but you just don't talk to anybody at all. And, more or less, I kind of liked that rule. I was like a very, very, very good rule. And again, I wasn't playing with a lot of Americans. In fact, I was usually the only American. But I had a really good friend, Jan Timman. And Jan and I often hung out together, during the tournaments. But we beat the hell out of each other. Like, I think Jan and I played, like, seriously, not a joke, like 27 games. And I have a +1 record against him. And the draws are few. So we beat the hell out of each other, but we hung out together and we're good friends. And we were in Indonesia playing, and Jan was just having a superb tournament. He was running away with it. And I was having a subpar result. I was like on some kind of a roller coaster ride. And I didn't even realize it at the time, but Lajos Portis was in second. And I played, seriously, maybe the game of my life against Lajos. I just made some wonderful sacrifices. It was all wonderful. It was really great. And somehow during the walk, there was a pretty big tournament hall. It was the Ladies' Cup. It's something like I'm going to say 25-player round robin. So it's got to be a pretty big playing hall. And I would talk to Jan, just like, hey, Jan, do you know where the sugar is? Something very innocuous. Mm-hmm. But in truth, you weren't supposed to talk to each other full stop. And Lajos called me on it after the game. He said, I resigned, but I don't like the fact you were talking to Timman. And at first I was pissed. Like, how dare you reproach me? We're not Soviets. We don't talk. And I thought about it, and I said, I'll be damned. He's absolutely right. If we want this rule for the Soviets, we should accept it ourselves. So after that, I was very, very, very careful.
That was in the 80s, you said,
the 80s.
But I have to say I was doing it in like the late 90s,
Yeah.
But mostly when I was a kid and I didn't know any better, right?
You grew out of it, right? Yeah.
You grow out of it, and obviously with, once again, the emergence of the engines, I think that changed everything.